Man, I got mine. I don't even care.
Welcome to another episode of Fantasy Football Safe Space. I'm 7 o'clock. I'm accompanied with my brother from another mother. Brother Fox, what's good, baby?
Hey, I'm well, brother. I'm well. Ready to talk
Mhm.
about some draft strategies here.
I'm ready. I'm ready. And on my other side, I got the king of the South. He's no longer the warden. Big E, the fantasy football big guy. How are you, King?
I'm the king around here. You know how it is, Uncle Elroy. Hey,
Mm.
bless you know what I'm saying. Let's have a good time, man. Let's talk some strategies, baby. Let's get it.
Let's get it, brother Fox. Before we get busy, how can the good folks take care of us?
As always, y'all can give us that HBO special. If you don't know by now, the HBO special is the Help a Brother Out special. So help some brothers out. Hit that like button, subscribe. It truly goes a long way.
If you are new to the fantasy football safe space, this is a place where you can come cry, vent, laugh all of your fantasy football sorrows away. But it's not the regular season, so we're giving you something to step to, like Timberland said. You know, it's been a long time. We don't want it to be a long time.
Right.
So we're talking draft strategy, draft preferences. For those that are not familiar with fantasy football, there are really three main strategies. You can take the best player available and build your roster that way, or you can go a zero RB or a zero wide receiver. In both of these situations, you don't take a running back or receiver in the first 4 rounds. Brother Fox, you and I have alluded to the changing of the guard. We are of the old guard, of the old ilk of taking running backs early. What
Mhm.
you feeling like doing this year? What you talk to us about your strategy? What you've seen so far?
Well, I think either method, if you're trying to go zero running back or zero receiver, it's incredibly difficult to have a balanced team if you do those either way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I truly feel like so last year we talked about changing of the guard and how it was becoming a wide receiver league, especially in PPR leagues.
Yeah.
So we were suggesting, and we most people saw it that wide receivers are going hot and heavy in the first round. Now that continues into this year, um, but what I can say is that if you do the three wide receiver strategy, the chances of you coming out the back end with a decent running back in rounds, 4 and 5,
Yeah.
you're going to be scrambling. So I think based upon my own experience, I think I've landed on best player available in each round. Uh,
Yeah.
Now for me, that generally comes out to receiver, running back, or receiver, running back, receiver. Um,
Mm.
it's generally the best kept secret kind of thing.
Your
Uh,
your mindset is get at least one running back in those first 3 rounds. What up, good
exactly.
Kenny? Shout out to the Heart to Start. Shout out to the ooh, let me look it up. I don't want to mess it up. Shout out Spencer the Guru. Shout out to Bogart Scott. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, but pretty much I feel like you still have to go wide receiver heavy in the first couple of rounds. I feel like if you end up drafting even a top tier running back in the first round, you're pretty much, unless you're at the end of the first round,
Hmm.
you're almost betting that you're not going to have a very good top tier wide receiver. And I feel like receivers win fantasy football championships.
Gen Wealth Network. Make sure you go follow and subscribe. What you got, Biggie? What are your thoughts this year? You see anything that you like? Anything you feeling dangerous?
Well, you know how we used to do it. Like I said, when you had Eckler and Jacobs the first year, we used to be, that hero running back.
Hmm.
Say, that you get your double running backs, and I mean that's kind of more old school. People still win like that, but for me, I'm not really so much a best player. I, it matters how the draft flows. It really does for me. I like to get two wide receivers now because it's changed, especially when you got PPR. I feel like I don't even mind getting a wide receiver. You have to have one wide receiver, but I like to get a wide receiver. And if it's a Jonathan Taylor at the past the turn, maybe in the second round or something like that, I definitely would go with Jonathan Taylor or a good running back. You know what I'm saying? But to pick up Christian McCaffrey first pick, I don't like to do that anymore. I I found myself moving away from them blue tent boards, especially. So I do like double wide receiver now. I like to try to go double wide receiver, but I will go wide receiver, running back, but then I come right back to wide receiver. You got to get your wide receivers, even though there's plenty, they're not that elite.
I feel it. It's difficult to get away from the running back because that's what we know. That's what we were taught.
Right.
But last year, Christian McCaffrey was the only RB to go over, what I want to say, 1,200, 1,300 rushing yards. With that said, it might be time for your boy Seven to switch it up a little bit. We looked at the mock last night. It was some decent running backs in that 4, 5, 6 range. I wouldn't mind going triple receiver tight end and then still getting like a Zamir White and a DeAndre Swift as my RB2. Now, would I feel great about that? No. But that means I probably got me a Mark Andrews or a McBride or maybe a Kelsey. And that probably means I got me a Amon-Ra and a Harrison Jr. or a Garrett Wilson and a Puka on the turn. It's tough to tell. I think you got to go. I don't think you should go into the draft with a mindset of what you're going to do. You got to just ride the wave. You got to surf out there. If Bijan is there, you planned on going receiver, and Bijan's there in the 10th round, you're not going to take Bijan? You know, it is what it is.
It pains me because I know you guys get the feeling, and we grew up drafting 2 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
Like I know when you draft 2 wide receivers, and you see James kind of come up with who don't have a running back yet, and you like, oh my God, what have I done? Because it's just in you. It's in you.
Yeah.
Back, and if I don't have at least one, I'm like, what have I done? I wanted to go as far as I could to see where I would land with the running backs, and it didn't look pretty. So you have to hit one at least, like you said, 3rd, 4th round, and they're not going to look pretty. I would like to get a wide receiver or a running back. I really would this year.
No, you're right, because it's like turning on the lights at the nightclub, and you finally looking at what you got, and it's like, oh shoot, man, it's the 4th round, and this is what I got. This is what I'm going home with tonight.
Exactly. And it's like just looking back at our mocks from the past 3 mock drafts that we've had. Essentially you have 3 to 4 running backs that are going for sure in the first round. McCaffrey, Bijan, Breece Hall, and generally either Saquon or Gibbs at the end of the first, right? But in that same span, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And if you count Travis Kelce and Laporta, you have 14 receiving options going in the first 2 rounds. And so it's like, sure, is there a big difference between some of the higher end RB1s and the latter end RB1s? Yes, there is. But as Seven stated in our mock draft yesterday, there was only 1 running back that went over 1,200 yards last year, and that was Christian McCaffrey. Compare that to the early to mid 2000s, where you had, I think it was 15 to 20 running backs that went over 1,200 yards. So it's like it's the league itself is changing. It's becoming more of a pass-friendly league, and you have more specialized backs. Guys who come in just for 3rd down to catch those balls out the backfield. There is no workhorse. There's no Adrian Petersons anymore. No. There's no those players, those LaDainian Tomlinsons. They no longer exist. That's so right. You have to adapt with the times and look at look at the target share on your team. How many targets is there your particular player getting? Like say Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra played with the injury last year and still put up 1,400 yards, and I think it was 7 touchdowns last year for Amon-Ra. Mm-hmm. And this is with an offense that has Laporta, that has 2 running backs, and we're still heavily running the football. And he got that many touches with the ball. That's a clear wide receiver 1, in my opinion. Yeah. So you really do have to dictate it around people's situation. As opposed to wasting your draft capital just on high-end names that are gonna fail you down the road. The Najee Harrises, you're gonna overpay for them in the 2nd and 3rd round when their output is going to be around, fourth or fifth round potential.
For sure.
I definitely like I said, with the Najee Harris comment. I like Jalen Warren better. I don't know how you feel, Brother Seven, but I'm just not a fan. I think I saw, and I'm not. They will remain nameless. I saw somebody take Bijan third. And I'm not hating. You know what I'm saying? Because he's supposed to be getting some catching work, but I'm not a Bijan fan. You got to prove it to me. Like I said, I'm from Missouri, baby. You got to show me. I believe in Bijan, and partly because I don't believe in Bijan is because of Kyle Pitts, and everybody hates it. Well, at least I do. I hate Kyle Pitts. People are still trying to jump on the Kyle Pitts bandwagon, and I just don't see, what I'm saying, any production. Now you can play this back later, but I think Kyle Pitts got me shook on Bijan.
So with Bijan, I look at it. There's a whole new sheriff in town. They cleaned house.
They did.
They have a new GM as well as new coaches. So I can't really feel like I can't hold Bijan's bad season against Bijan last year. I feel like when he was used in the rotation properly, he put up solid numbers. Whereas Kyle Pitts, this is Kyle Pitts' fourth year in the league. He is who we thought he was at this point. Like the cream rises to the top, and this man, he'd have been a bottom feeder his whole life. So I just don't see it.
I was shocked to see him go fifth round last night.
Yeah.
That was a big shot. We got Big E. They still don't have Wi-Fi in the country.
In the city now, baby. What? I'm freezing up.
I don't think so.
Hey, shot callers, he don't know what he's talking about. Hey, I'm in the city now, baby. About big as well. I don't even know if he's from the city. But yeah, I'm in the city. I'm in Greensboro now, right there in Winston-Salem, bro.
Now, one thing that I have noticed, and it's gotten a little better now that we're getting close to the normal times of the year where people are drafting. Yeah. But we discussed this about a month ago, that the APRs at some of these sites from Yahoo to the Fantasy Pros, a lot of them seemed off. So just know that, some of those guys who, people don't really like to talk about it, but the traditional people who use the board to help them draft a lot more than they should, this is the kind of year you might need to know your shit, because, if you're relying on that Fantasy Pros board to show you exactly who is the most capable player that you should be taking next, they might lead you in the wrong direction this year for sure.
For sure. You make a valid point. They're usually better than this. I feel like they're having a down year. Yeah. I know we don't do this for money. It would be nice if this became something more than what it is, but this is therapy for us, just to shoot the shit with my family, with my friends, and keep in contact with y'all and talk sports like we would normally do. We just do it in front of a camera. But they might need some help. They might need some help out there on Fantasy Pros, because this shit's looking kind of weird. I ain't gonna lie. And I like their product. I love the Draft Wizard, but they might need some help. What you got, Biggie?
Well, I mean, you see, all I hear is talking about David Njoku's breakout year and who's going to draft him. I mean, you see all type of guys that's really low where you have to scroll and scroll. Mm-hmm. You'd be very surprised at the end, like, he's still available, and it's just because people haven't seen him. He isn't in the spot that he needs to be projected to go. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times people, they mess up and they be like, hey, they don't see that guy, or they think he's already took. Because it's kind of hard to scan the board with the time that you have. So sometimes you just run onto a player. But, yeah, I think they really got the projections off bad. You know what I'm saying? I think shot callers, he might have a hand in that. You know what I'm saying?
We got Kyle Pitts is going off. Devontae is going to the Raiders or to the Jets, and Chiefs don't make the playoffs.
Jesus.
Now he's just out here trolling.
For real.
Now he's out here just trolling.
He definitely Fantasy Pros draft rank, definitely.
Right.
Now, I think another thing that I've noticed this year, that you really do have to take into consideration for draft strategy is, a lot of players are being drafted off of name recognition.
Oh, talk about it. Preach to it.
And so we talked about this a lot last year when people were like, Darren Waller was still going as tight end 4
or 5.
Sometimes you saw him even as high as 3. People talked about, the opportunity being as in New York. This man is who we thought he was. Like I said last year repeatedly, stop talking about the Darren Waller that was around 2 years ago and talk about the Darren Waller that's there today. And like, so don't get it confused when you see certain players that have that name recognition that, like say a Nick Chubb. A Nick Chubb 2 to 3 years ago, Nick Chubb was a late first rounder, early second rounder. But you're going to see Nick Chubb available in the 6th, sometimes even the 7th coming off that horrific injury. You don't necessarily draft just because their name is recognizable. And I think of someone even like David Njoku. They've talked about this man for several years as breaking out. He had a good season last year, but you got to look at the circumstances. It was Joe Flacco that had a good season with David Njoku. And Flacco is nowhere to be found in this offense. He's never really built chemistry with Watson. So you really do have to look at players situationally and kind of do your homework. You can't just base off a name alone. Otherwise, you're going to get lapped in the process.
No doubt, no doubt. I believe the same thing. Just speaking to Darren Waller, like you said, I was off on Darren Waller a while ago, and I remember he was in the league with him in the best ball league, and I was killing them. But another name for me is Chris Olave. Chris Olave.
Talk about it.
When I do not want to draft, it's like at lull in the second round, or maybe going into the third, maybe if you're lucky. But Chris Olave, he's like the DJ Moore, New Orleans to me. He has no quarterback, hasn't had a quarterback, but he'll give you 1,100. He gave you 1,100 last year, and he not to knock the talent. He is a talented brother, you know what I'm saying? But he has nobody throwing him the football. So what can you do? You're just going to be sitting there, with a wide receiver who produces. He's not going to kill you every week, but he's not going to explode. He's not going to give you that explosion. 3 touchdowns, you know what I'm saying, 150-something yards, something like that. You won't get that big week with Chris Olave. He's just going to get that same 14 points, which is great. But I want a big week. I want a chase week.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's someone who I never targeted, and I said something about him last year and got a little bit of hate for it because he finished as the wide receiver 25, and not only overall but points per game he was 25 because everyone, he wasn't healthy, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
What did he do last year? Wide receiver 20.
Yeah,
wide receiver 20. Nothing has changed. Derek Carr still is quarterback.
Right.
They still play in the same division. Michael Thomas not there, so he gets maybe a couple extra targets. Michael Thomas never healthy. And you go in there, middle second, late second. There's Chris Olave every time. And I'm like, how?
He's just a guy.
It's a name. And they love to hype these guys up in camp or like go back to Kyle Pitts. Oh, this guy is in the lining up as receiver. A lot of tight ends line up as receiver. Jimmy Graham used to line up as receiver. What you talking about? Mike Gesicki lined up as receiver in Miami. What is the point that you're trying to make? You're trying to sell. The guy hasn't performed, and you guys are trying to sell your followers on 5th, 6th round. And Evan Ingram is right there.
Yes.
No Calvin Ridley. Ingram is right there.
Yes.
I want to sell to people Kyle Pitts. Like, come on, bro.
Right. Now, I got Ingram last night in the draft, late. And so I was surprised, definitely, that he was like the 4th in targets in the NFL, not just count tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
Wide receivers. And it's like, don't sleep on. Just he got the Jerry Carroll cut off, baby. You know what I'm saying? He moved Cali. Let's get it.
Now, another thing I've noticed too. So going into last season, we were discussing quarterbacks and when do you take a quarterback? When was the appropriate time? And at the time, we were saying like there were really only 3 quarterbacks that you would take, a jump for, and that was Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and Jalen Hurts were the ones that you'd be willing to take in like the 3rd round.
Mm-hmm.
But you were still able to get competent, great quarterback play into the 6th and 7th round.
Yep.
I feel like this season it's kind of changed. And what I mean by that is the difference between the competent quarterback play with consistent numbers and just your average run-of-the-mill quarterback, it changes so week to week that I've noticed in our mock drafts that quarterbacks have kind of jumped up a round or two. Like you're still going to see your Josh Allens in your mid to late 3rd round, and I feel like he's the only quarterback that should go before the end of the 3rd round.
You mean he's not? You mean he's not the number 17 overall ranked player?
Not at all. Absolutely not. Ooh. But then, like I noticed that there was a run on quarterbacks the last 3 drafts we did, and it all starts in like the 4th round. You'll have Pat Mahomes come off. You'll have Hurts. You'll have Lamar Jackson. You'll have C.J. Stroud. You'll have some in most cases like Jordan Love. It's to the point this year, if you want competent quarterback play, you're not going to be able to hold out to the 6th or 7th round like you would previously, unless you're willing to take a Kyler Murray, a Dak Prescott, Jared Goff. If you're willing to go that route, then hey, sure, all power to you. But if you want one of like the upper echelon quarterbacks, and again, that the deviation between a Pat Mahomes and a Jordan Love ain't that big, but you're gonna still see them fall in like similar rounds. So, I feel like quarterbacks that kind of jumped up a little bit from last year we said 5th, 6th round. You're probably gonna have to take a quarterback now between 4 and mid to late 5 if you want like one of the top tier guys.
I feel you. Shout out to our legendary 4th member,
Albert. What's up, baby? I feel the same way. It ain't as bad as it was a few years ago. Some were going, Pat Mahomes was going first. Yeah. So I think I drafted Pat in the 4th, but somebody had drafted Josh Allen in the 3rd last time. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I'm saying no hate to them, but I just saw Pat come and he came back, and I don't know, it was the 4th, pick in the draft. So when he came back in the 4th round, I was like, hey, I would take Pat here. I feel comfortable taking him there because it's one of those years. He has like an off year, then a year that he's on. You know what I'm talking about, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this is like one of the years I think he's going to be on, and plus he has more weapons. You know what I'm saying? Last year, yes, come on. But at the same time, hey, I take Kyle. I think Kyle is going to shine. And the guy, what hurts me the most is the guy who I would always go to is Geno Smith. Last year, you would wait on Geno. You know what I'm saying? The last player, like 7, you would get Lawrence. Maybe the last quarterback.
Yeah.
I'm not leaning on those guys anymore.
Yeah, I feel like when you play fantasy football, more times than not, 6 teams make the playoffs. And I often try to get me a top 6 tight end, a top 6 quarterback without overpaying. And that's a juggle every year. And it looks like that 5th, 6th round is where you probably want to have your quarterback and your tight end by then, which, that means you can get at least a running back or 2, a wide receiver or 2 or 3, and then maybe you get your flex in the 7th round. I have to look at bring up the rankings, but from what I've gathered from the mock that we're doing, you definitely want to get your tight end and quarterback before that 6th round, no later than that 6th round, because after 6 was 72, so then you're getting your flex is probably looking like a Deontay Johnson, DeAndre Swift, Jaden Reed. I mean, Brock Purdy could be your starting quarterback if you want to get your flex in the 6th round instead. Rashid Rice may not. I'm not mad at Zamir White or Najee, Jaylen Warren, Hollywood, Pollard. I mean, there's some good some solid flex caliber players out here in these mid rounds as a flex. But one strategy that I'm thinking about is securing my tight end one, obviously, and my quarterback before the 7th. That's one thing. I'll do best available all the way up into the 5th, 6th round, and then I know I'm looking for best available at that point. I got to get somebody. So you just, like you said, you don't want to get caught on with the lights cut on, and you find out you're going home with a 5.
Yeah.
I like waiting for Kyler or Jaden Daniels. A lot of people big on Jaden Daniels, man. A lot of people big on Jaden Daniels.
Well, the defense will have some shootouts, so I think that with his rushing ability, but if he don't learn to slide, he's gonna get killed.
Yeah, and that stadium that they play in, it's no help to anybody. It's it's injury central out there. So I wish the brother well. I definitely hope that he's able to produce in that offense. Hell, the fans of Washington need it, but it's I don't know if that offensive line is going to provide him enough time for him to be truly productive this year. But we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Caleb Williams is not receiving close to any love in our mocks. He's I know, granted, we only do 7, 8, or we do 8 or 9 rounds just to keep it condensed into 30 minutes. We don't do a kicker defense. We do 2 bench players. Mm-hmm. But Jaden Daniels is slowly starting to gain a little bit of little steam. I saw some other mocks on IG from other sites, and I seen some teams that had him as their QB1. I don't feel comfortable having him as maybe a super flex, but a standard redraft, PPR redraft. Hell no, I can't do Jaden Daniels.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's me personally.
I mean, I with you a super flex. I messed up last year and got Bryce Young, and everybody knew what he was supposed to be. I said, my goodness. I mean, Stroud was there. Stroud was there, but I got Bryce. So it's just like, you just can't. You never can tell with a rookie quarterback what they're going to do, how they're going to show up. Nobody saw Stroud how he was going to perform last year. So,
go ahead. I agree. The Stroud came up with wasn't his Wonderlic score one of the worst in team history, and people were questioning his intelligence and this and that.
Yeah.
And, but then he comes out here and lights the world up. So
yeah, they dogged Ohio State quarterbacks, everything.
Read. Why the brother can't read?
One thing that's also interesting to me, like you had mentioned Brock Purdy, and I do see here in the Fantasy Pros, he's listed as quarterback 11. So we've done mock drafts all off season, including a super flex, and I think only the super flex was Brock Purdy taken. But again, he finished last year at QB 6. And so that's to me where it gets perplexing. It's like you have a man who's on paper. We all know that his team is stacked. We all know that that obviously he has players around him that are still grinding. Who we don't know about the Ayuk situation. He wants to get traded.
Mm-hmm.
1 week, next week he wants to stay. But even without Ayuk, their offense is still built. It's built for speed kind of thing. So he showed last year that he can actually put up the numbers, but in fantasy football, still people are doubting him. And so I could see someone like a Brock Purdy being a handicap if you're somebody who does go with one of these strategies, the RB heavy in the beginning or wide receiver heavy in the beginning, and you're not able to get that competent quarterback in the like the 5th to 6th round. You may be able to get you a Brock Purdy in the 9th or 10th, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's a great take. That's a great take. There are quality quarterbacks in Goff, Stafford, Tua. Tua led the league quiet as kept in yards last year. No one's talking about that. So we just got to see, man. You got to play it by ear. Biggie, you got anything to add before we wrap things up?
Got another comment too, by the way.
My bad.
No doubt about it. But Purdy does have a nice playoff matchup. I do like that. But I really, like you said, I haven't seen anybody except for the super flex draft that we had. But Purdy's not a dazzling pick for me. It's not just like a guy just not gonna not gonna look for a pick. Some people will. Maybe some of the smarter fantasy people will get Brock Purdy, but not for me. And I mean, you lose Brandon Ayuk. I know they got the rookie. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, I'm interested to see what Purdy does. I want to see what Ayuk does. So I don't, in different systems, not so much Purdy, but Ayuk. I want to see if he does get traded. I want to see what happens. But I'm just not drafting Brock Purdy for me.
Yeah. I also like Purdy's playoff matchup. That Week 17 Lions game can pop off. Yes, sir. If the 49ers haven't already clinched the number 1 seed, yeah, that could be a dogfight. And Lions historically these last 2 years under Dan Campbell don't play any type of defense.
Right.
Yeah. No, thanks for rocking with us, Matt. We appreciate that one. Yeah, Purdy could be a sleeper. He could be a sleeper. I fell into the trap last year rocking with Geno, who had finished QB7 the prior year. And I waited, got built a beautiful roster, but he was only giving me like 14, 16 a week. And that's with a six touchdown league. And I had to let him go. A lot of people are big on him this year, big on DK because of the new head coach and Pete Carroll's out. But I don't know. I feel like we know who Geno is.
Yeah. Right.
He's not a bad guy, but he just top 12. He might be 12 at best.
Right. And thank God
he wrote back.
Now we talked about this before in regards to Brock Purdy, talking about following the money. We said when a player is in a contract year, sometimes like the chance of them breaking out is high. Yeah, so Brock Purdy, being as he was the Mr. Irrelevant, this is year 3 of a 4-year contract where he's making peanuts. But after the season is the first opportunity for him to actually open up for a contract extension. Now, the last pick in the draft, his whole contract was probably $2.1 million.
Yeah,
4 years. So right. Brock has made little to nothing his entire career, especially after taxes. He might have a meal, if that. So you got to think he's looking to pop off to make that generational wealth for his family. So I think it might be a good year to pull to light up the board for Brock Purdy, and I don't feel like enough people are talking about it.
What would it be a strategy you'd incorporate with Brock Purdy? Who would be your insurance? Would you go like Brock Purdy in golf, like 10th, 11th round? And that way, if should something happen to Purdy or just play matchups?
That's a good question.
Golf's got Laporta. He's got St. Brown. He's got Gibbs. He's got my other gambling guy. What's my man's name? Was it Jameson Williams?
Yeah, Jameson.
He's got some talent around him.
That's a very good question. I'd be willing to gamble on him. I still would. I feel like because history has shown in our drafts that Brock is kind of like an afterthought to a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So with that said, like you're going to see. We saw people like Tua Tagovailoa, as well as other quarterbacks, even Jalen Daniels going before him. So you might be able to. I would look at it as like if you weren't able to get one of those top tier quarterbacks. And you were able to you got your quarterback in like say the 6th or 7th round, and you got someone like Jordan Love. Jordan Love is a wonderful player, but we are all projecting on what he potentially could be. I think it'd be smart to get a handicap and get somebody like a Brock Purdy, just in case there's some regression that comes from someone like a Love. I still would not feel comfortable taking Brock Purdy as my de facto QB1, but the notion of having him as a handicap or a safety or even a potential trade venture is fantastic.
I like it.
Yeah,
you look quiet over there, Big E.
No, I'm just thinking about who I would pick with Brock Purdy, and I'm saying I think that one of the rookies. I like what I'm saying. So Jaden Daniels, I think that's kind of like I did that with Pat Mahomes this second. He had the height. No one drafted him. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people picked him up on waivers after that first week, but I drafted Pat Mahomes. So I kind of I kind of like if I go with somebody like a Purdy who is reliable. I like to get a rookie that may blow up, may explode, or a second-year player that may explode.
Yeah, I like that. If you punt for all position, punt for quarterback, get Brock Purdy in the 10th, and maybe take Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels in the 11th, 12th.
Right.
King Bynum, what's up, King? Hopefully you're doing well. Real talk. What y'all think of Pitts and ATL with Kirk? You missed the beginning of the show, brother, but Brother Fox, tell him how you feel.
Hey, he trash, brother. He trash. It's in reality, like Pitts is working off of name recognition at this point. He's not shown anything close to what his immense potential was coming out of college out of Florida. You got to remember, this man was drafted in the top four, and has had less than a handful of touchdowns. I want to say it's with 3 or 4 in 4 seasons. This is his last year to potentially show that he's a breakout player. I personally don't see it. Like we said before, the cream rises to the top, and Kyle Pitts is somewhere along the bits at the bottom of the barrel. He's not that big.
The burnt part of the pan.
Exactly, bro. He the bits at the bottom, bro. He ain't that guy. He never will be that guy. And I think that Atlanta is slowly trying to, they're trying to raise his capital by saying that they're going to use him more as a receiver in hopes that someone might bite on it. He's making top tier first round money and has had 0 to production for it. Tight end 14. Just think about that. Tight end 14. That means that he's not a viable starter in any league. In any 12-man league, he's not a viable starter. I just don't see it.
Yeah.
And no, absolutely not. Kirk Cousins, Kirk Cousins is in his late 30s coming off an Achilles injury. We don't even know if Kirk is going to be the same player that he was last year with the Vikings. So to think that he's going to somehow come out and change the trajectory of a player that's going down, I just don't see it. Sure, Kirk's going to get them some extra wins, but will those wins be because of Kyle Pitts? Nah.
Yeah, now Kyle Pitts, he really didn't have any quarterback play. I mean, you had already told me about Ritter. I made that mistake too in a super flex as well. But at the same time, Kirk is not the savior. And I mean, Pitts, in 4 years, he would show you something. Well, he got 1,000 yards in his rookie year. Well, he's still trash because he has declined every year after, since his rookie year. And that wasn't too impressive. He got hot for a little while and it made it look better. So I think everybody's trying to find the steal in fantasy. You always try to find that player that's going to make the difference, or who you could get in the 8th round that's like that Puka Nacua or whatever. But Pitts is not that guy. I'm telling you, don't do it. Do not do it.
I know people. But before I give y'all the HBO special, people forget Kyle Pitts' first year in the league, he had Matty Ice. Matty Ice was good enough to be traded for a first and second rounder, and had another year after that as a starting quarterback for the Colts. He even with Matty Ice, he had 1,000 yards and still couldn't get in the end zone. It's again, he is who we thought he was, and we got to stop talking about the player he was projected to be 3 years ago and talk about the player that he is, which is trash. And as always, y'all can give us that HBO special. If you don't know what the HBO special is, the Help a Brother Out special. So help some brothers out. Hit that like button, subscribe. It truly, truly goes a long way.
No doubt.
We appreciate y'all rocking with us. That concludes another episode of Fantasy Football Safe Space. We will see you guys next Tuesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, here on the Fantasy Shot Callers YouTube channel. Peace.
Hey, what's up, baby?
Go Chiefs.